doing citizen science, or do you think you're doing something? I think that's really interesting that you sort of said, well, as scientists, we're doing.
Well, I guess I was just trying to like set us off from scientists, or setting us off from us. So it's not really like we're exactly scientists. It's more that in all of these things kind of overlap. So if you were to look at us as scientists, it would be that we're not particularly interested in being super duper accurate or in those kinds of things. It's more like we're examining this kind of process and seeing what about that in itself is interesting, I guess.
So, do you think that the instruments are are kind of blurring the line now between artists and scientists?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, there's so many different ways that art and science overlap, and so many ways that can be defined that it's really hard to say. But sure, we're using sort of semi-scientific instruments, and we're collecting data, and we're trying to interpret that data in different ways, but we're not, or we're examining how people interpret data, really.
I was looking into, some things in the past, and it seems like, 100 years ago or something, people just a regular citizen would have a barometer that they would look at and they would read, or people would be more sort of comfortable with reading these weather type instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that what you're doing ties in with that sort of historical experience, or do you think that there's something new that's going on with these kind of more digital instruments?
Well, I think what would be new is the ability to take your own data, but then also compare it with other people over, Citizen Weather and Weather Underground, and be able to sort of put your data into a collection of everyone's data over the web. So that's really, I guess, the way it's synthesized, right?
And so, where do you find the art? Where's the art in it? Somebody asked me this, recently as well.
So you're like, where's the art?
So you're putting up these weather stations, and what's the art part?
I might have already said this, but I'm really interested in the instrument thing. I mean, and I haven't quite defined this for myself yet, but it's somewhere in there. That I'm really interested in sort of the motivation of taking data, and the motivation of using this sort of proxy system to interact with environmental things. So, like one piece that I really love is really dopey, but I love it. It's like I keep thinking I need to look this up, but it's a bowling ball on the ground, and on top of the bowling ball is a tripod, and what it is a gravity detector. So there's a sensor on top of the tripod, so if gravity fails, then the bowling ball will hit the tripod and knock over the sensor. So, there's something there's something dopey about that I love, there's something else about that's going on, that maybe it circles back on itself, or examines how much these instruments are really kind of obscuring our own relationship to environmental things, but it's sort of examining it in a cultural way or something, or a psychological way, or I don't know, just the motivation to put instruments out there somehow is fascinating.
So would you say that you're criticizing that through your artwork?
I don't know if it's exactly critical. It's more like, I mean, I'm not saying if that's exactly what I'm doing either, or we're doing, or whatever, but it's more, I like that sort of weird sensibility of what we're doing is nonsensical, but is it not, is it,
So there's all these tools that we use as artists, or these instruments, we work with computers, and we work with printing equipment and stuff like that. Do you think of the weather station as kind of the same as those tools, or an instruments, or is it different? Is it like an artistic?
Yeah, I would say what we do with it can be. Yeah, one of the things that we've been working on is inviting artists to interpret data. So every month for the year, for 2008 and for 2009, we've invited artists to interpret a month's worth of data. So we collect data and we give it to them in a month chunk, and they interpret it in some way, and then they do it in a small edition, and we have a portfolio exchange. So each artist then gets a year's worth of all of the reports. So it's kind of a way of again just sort of stepping back and looking at all of what do you do with all this data that people collect. Like, we have so much information available to us at all times and everything, and sort of what do you do with all this information? And so it's been really neat. Like, some people do very direct kind of graph-like things that show the data directly in one way or the other. Other people extract from it tiny bits of information and only show that, like it's a cold, clear day or something that just summarizes the whole month, so it's more poetic or something. And then other people, relate it to other information, like the forest fires in California, and have like a series of dots or something that explains the forest fire, or that relates the forest fire to other kinds of data. And other people are more diaristic about it, like follow their own, moods or something, and then compare that to the actual data that was happening. So it's been really interesting just to see what kind of the range of possibilities of what you do with information and how you make that relate to yourself. So I guess so sort of encircling back, it's not so much that I feel like we're doing something directly with the weather station itself. It's more like it's an avenue for examining all these different phenomena. It's not so much that it's it's like a friend of ours described it as a fan club, like as a way of addressing all of these different things, data and atmosphere and social phenomena of the web and just all these different things.
Cool, thank you.